DawgNation welcomes in Alyssa Lang, a sideline reporter for the SEC Network. We're going to talk football, but first we have to talk about you because you recently co-hosted SportsCenter for the first time. Much deserved. I know it's a massive accomplishment. What was that feeling like?
It was amazing. First of all, thank you. That's very kind of you. I think everyone gets into this business with some big goals in mind. Sometimes they feel like pipe dreams, especially when you're starting out. And if you had told me 10 years ago that I'd sit on a SportsCenter desk one day, I probably would have told you that you were insane and that was never going to happen. So I will say it was probably the most nervous I've ever been for anything. I felt physically ill in the 5 minutes before the lights came on and we started the show. But just like everything else, once it started, once we got going, it was so much fun. Was surrounded by so many great people who made it such an easy transition, and I hope I get to do more, so it's been awesome.
I think I read somewhere that one of your high school friends actually predicted that you would be on SportsCenter. What did you say to your friends?
So my best friend, who actually any minute now is expecting to give birth to her first child, and I'm the godmom, so shout out to her, really personal. My best friend since high school, really since middle school, but since high school she wrote in my yearbook she couldn't wait to see me on ESPN one day hosting SportsCenter because it's always been something that I've wanted to do. So I texted her as soon as I got the email that I was going to have the opportunity to do the show. And then the very first picture that I took on the set, I sent it to her before I posted on social media. So always love my best friend for supporting me and predicting it and manifesting it.
You're someone that's been with the SEC Network for some time. I'm sure you've attended plenty of media days, but I think the first thing I noticed when I walked in here is it says 16 strong on that board. When you think about Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC, how does it not only change this event, but reshape the conference as a whole?
Yeah, I think it just makes the conference stronger. 16 strong is really a great way to put it. And even though we're in the middle of talking about college football right now, it's not just college football. You look at basketball, you look at baseball, certainly softball from an Oklahoma standpoint, and Texas. They just played each other in the Women's College World Series, and Oklahoma just did something that had never been done before, 4 straight national championships. So when it comes to the SEC, we are so used to it being the highest level of competition, the most talented athletes, and the best coaches. That only continues with Texas and Oklahoma, and I truly believe that will continue on the football field with Texas and Oklahoma as well. I'm not saying that I think either of them are going to come in and play each other in the SEC championship in Atlanta this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens soon.
This is Nick Saban's first time at this conference, not as a coach. His presence is still very much felt, though. What's it like having him on the other side of things?
I will say this morning was the first time I experienced him being a full media member as we were getting ready for our shows. And I'm watching Coach Saban. I'm getting ready for my interviews. I'm watching Coach Saban come in. He goes and gets a cup of coffee, and then another cup of coffee. And I think I counted 6 or 7 cups of coffee before the time that we hit maybe lunchtime. It's surreal, though, to see him on this side. It's awesome. He's such a great coach, but maybe it's crazy to think that he's even better in the desk as a media member. I think it's going to be really cool because he sees the game in a different way. He sees things differently than anyone, which is what had made him such a great coach. I will say I always looked forward to my trips to Tuscaloosa just to talk ball with him because I always learned something. So I think for viewers, whether it's College Game Day, SEC Network, weeks like this, they're going to learn something every time they hear Coach Saban talk, and it's awesome. It changes the landscape from a football standpoint for sure, but from a media standpoint and a viewer standpoint, it's going to be amazing.
I think you said that perfectly, too, because when he was coach at Alabama, I think he almost served as this speaker of the house role for all the other coaches. So now that he's gone, who's kind of taken that role as a coach?
Ooh, that's such a great question. It might be open for the taking at this point. I don't know that there will ever be another Nick Saban, but I do think that when Kirby Smart talks, a lot of people listen. I think now we're getting to a point where when Steve Sarkisian talks, a lot of people listen. Brian Kelly has a very heavy voice in the community. I think any SEC coach, though, when they talk about things like NIL or the transfer portal or things that Coach Saban was willing to talk about and how they affected the landscape, anytime someone from the Southeastern Conference is willing to have that conversation, people listen. So it may have to be a by committee to replace Coach Saban's voice in that sense, but you never know who could come along. Maybe it'll be Kaylee DeBoer.
From a Georgia standpoint, Georgia really does have so many storylines to follow this season, whether it's the return of Carson Beck, the coming in of Trevor Etienne, or just trying to get back to the SEC championship. As a reporter, what's the Georgia storyline you're most excited to follow this season?
So as I was getting ready for this week and making sure that I was up to date on who each team got in the transfer portal and who left and who's still here, because that's kind of crazy to get ready for in the middle of July, I couldn't help but look once again at the wide receiver room. And that has been a group over the past few years that has had weapon after weapon after weapon. You lose Ladd, you lose Brock, you lose multiple pass catchers who have been a huge part of this offense. Yet I look at some of the names in that room and I go, yeah, it's hard to replace Ladd and it's hard to replace Brock. And I'm not saying that the next one's in that room, but I don't think that there's going to be this catastrophic drop-off from a weapons standpoint for Carson Beck. So that's a storyline that I'm interested in looking at early on. But also, you said it, the development of Carson Beck into year 2. I was really of the opinion about halfway through the year last year, he wasn't really getting the credit that he deserved for what he was doing at the quarterback position for running that offense. I think hindsight's 20/20, and now entering 2024, people look back at the numbers and they go back and watch the tape and they go, yeah, Carson Beck's really damn good. But in the moment, I don't think he got the love that he deserved. He's getting that attention now. He's getting the Heisman hope now. Hopefully he'll be able to climb the NFL draft boards, but I'm only expecting him to get better and better. How much better has he gotten between last January and game 1 this season? I'm excited to see that.
So to wrap up, as someone who's been a part of SEC Media Days before, what's the part that you look the most forward to about this event?
Oh man, yeah, I've been a part of this for a long time, from a local media standpoint to the SEC network. I think just seeing everyone and seeing everyone's excitement for college football. We call it the unofficial start to college football season for a reason, because everyone comes from all over the SEC, excited to talk about their team, making predictions, throwing out hot takes, and it's just such a family type environment. I just love hanging out with everybody and seeing everybody before things get crazy when we get to the end of August and September.
Well, Alyssa, we thank you for your time, and we're excited to see you on the sidelines this season.
Thank you for having me.